Okay, let's unpack this head scratcher. London, right? We all picture, the Queen, red buses, and, well, a city just swimming in cash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's genuinely surprising, actually, to hear that the number of millionaires living there dropped, like by a whopping 12% in the last year.
Yeah, that's a noticeable dip.
Especially when it's supposedly the sixth wealthiest city on the planet in 2025. It really makes you wonder, what does it actually mean for London to be a rich city today?
That's exactly it. That's the fascinating tension here. You've got this global financial powerhouse, generating a massive 562.2 billion in GDP.
Huge numbers.
Huge. But then you have this notable shift in its high net worth population, and it exists alongside some very real social challenges. It's a paradox we need to explore.
Absolutely. So in this deep dive, we're going to journey through the layers of London's wealth. We'll, trace its historical climb,
Right.
uncover the engines, keeping its economic heart beating, maybe identify the key players pulling the strings, and try to understand why this picture of immense wealth exists alongside some pretty significant inequalities. Get ready, because I think some of these facts will genuinely make you raise an eyebrow.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
And to really grasp London's current financial standing, you're right, we need to rewind a bit, see how it all began. Its rise as a major wealth center, well, it has roots stretching back centuries.
Yeah, think back to when Britain, ruled the waves. London's position as a port was like hitting the jackpot, wasn't it?
Absolutely crucial.
It became the central hub for a global empire. You had this, tidal wave of goods flowing in: tea from India, gold from Africa, spices from the Far East.
All converging on London. It was the original global marketplace, really.
Exactly.
And that geographical advantage was vital, but then the Industrial Revolution came along and acted as this major catalyst. It just propelled London's growth to a whole new level.
Right.
So the 19th century saw the birth of these essential financial institutions. That Lloyd's of London setting up the framework for global insurance.
Still a huge name today.
Absolutely. The London Stock Exchange, channeling capital, and of course the Bank of England, kind of the steady hand on the monetary tiller. This concentration of related industries in one place created this powerful momentum, an agglomeration economy, they call it.
Hold on, this concentration, this agglomeration thing, it's not just luck, is it? It actually fuels more growth. A bit like how, Silicon Valley attracts more tech talent and investment just by being there.
Precisely. That proximity, it fosters innovation, efficiency, and it creates this deep pool of specialized skills that everyone can tap into. Then you fast forward to 1986, and the Big Bang deregulation happens.
Ah, the Big Bang. Heard a lot about that.
It was a seismic event. It basically tore down old barriers, threw London's doors wide open to international finance. Trading just exploded after that, cementing its position as a dominant global financial center.
So London wasn't just lucky, it was strategic. It positioned itself and then actively, reshaped its own financial landscape to stay ahead. Okay, so what are the powerhouse sectors today? What's still fueling this wealth machine?
Well, its history is definitely rooted in trade and empire. But the modern engine is undeniably its financial services ecosystem. London stands right up there with New York, Tokyo, Singapore, a leading global financial hub.
Right.
And what's really striking is that roughly 22%, about a fifth of the entire UK's GDP, is generated right there in London.
22% from just one city.
Yeah, and a city that houses only about 13% of the nation's population.
Wow. That's an incredible concentration of economic activity. But surely it's got to be more than just banks and trading floors driving all that.
Oh, absolutely. London's economic strength really lies in its diversity. Beyond finance, you've got this thriving ecosystem of professional services, top-tier law firms, huge global accounting giants, influential consulting houses. They're all there.
Okay.
Then there's the sheer value of its real estate market. Some of the highest prices globally. That contributes significantly. And we can't overlook the vibrant creative industries, a constant stream of tourists,
Tourism is massive, yeah.
a rapidly expanding tech sector, and world-renowned universities drawing in global talent and, importantly, investment.
It really is like a perfectly tuned engine, isn't it? Multiple cylinders firing. And I remember reading somewhere that London actually puts more into the national pot than it takes out. Is that right?
That's correct. Back in 2016-17, for instance, London generated a substantial fiscal surplus. It was around 32.5 billion.
32 billion pounds.
Yeah. And this considerable sum was then available to fund public services in other parts of the UK.
Okay, so who are the real heavy hitters in this landscape? Which specific organizations wield the most influence?
Well, the traditional core is still the Square Mile, the City of London proper, and then the more contemporary financial district over in Canary Wharf.
Right, the two main hubs.
Exactly. And these are home to institutions that are household names everywhere. The Bank of England, the London Stock Exchange, the venerable Lloyds of London, alongside banking giants like HSBC, Barclays, you know the names.
We see the logos everywhere, sure. But what's the actual economic muscle these places represent? Can we quantify it?
We can try. Consider this. In 2023 alone, just the City of London, that's Square Mile, generated a GDP of about $110.8 billion.
Just the city.
Just the city. To put that in perspective, that single district has an economic output larger than many entire countries.
That really, really drives home the scale. But is this wealth, spread evenly across the whole city? I'd be willing to bet it's probably not.
You'd win that bet.
Right.
No, there are stark economic variations between London's different boroughs, its different areas. Camden and the City of London together, they lead the way with the highest gross value. Added a staggering $133.952 billion combined.
Wow.
Westminster follows, but it's a significant drop, down to $89.449 billion. So yeah, it highlights a very, very uneven distribution of economic activity within the city itself. Extreme wealth concentration in specific pockets.
Okay, so that brings us right up to today. We started with that headline about its ranking slipping. Where exactly does London sit on the global wealth ladder in 2025?
Right, so according to the Henley & Partners World Wealth Report for 2025, London is currently ranked as the sixth wealthiest city worldwide.
Sixth.
Sixth. And interestingly, yeah, this is a slight dip from its fifth position back in 2024.
A notch down. Should we be, I don't know, seeing that as some kind of warning sign?
Perhaps not cause for immediate alarm, but it's certainly a trend worth watching. London is currently home to approximately 215,700 millionaires.
Still a lot of millionaires.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And 352 centimillionaires, those with fortunes over $100 million, and 33 billionaires. But for comparison, New York City holds the top spot, and it has significantly higher numbers in each of those categories.
Right. And that 12% drop in millionaires we mentioned right at the start, that feels like a pretty significant shift. Do we know where these high net worth individuals are, choosing to go instead?
It seems to reflect a broader pattern of global wealth movement, really. While London saw that decrease from about 227,000 millionaires in 2024, cities like New York, the Bay Area, Tokyo, Singapore, they continue to attract and, crucially, retain a larger number of wealthy individuals.
So while London still boasts a huge number of millionaires, the overall trend is leaning slightly downwards, or at least plateauing compared to others. What about the total size of London's economy, its GDP? How does that compare globally?
In terms of overall GDP, London ranks fourth globally. Its economy is roughly $978 billion.
Fourth is still pretty high up there.
Very high. It's just behind Tokyo, New York, and Los Angeles. But interestingly, its GDP per capita, the output per person, was very high in 2022 at 63,407 talents. That indicates a really high level of economic output per person living there.
Okay, so the numbers confirm it. London is undeniably wealthy. But we keep circling back to this contrast, don't we? This image of, glittering affluence versus the reality of inequality on the ground.
Exactly. And that's where the debate lies. The argument for London's wealth concentration often emphasizes its role as this vital economic engine for the whole UK.
Right. The trickle-down idea, perhaps?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Supporters point out it generates a vast number of jobs, it drives innovation across different sectors, and contributes significantly to the national tax base. I mean, the financial sector alone employs over 500,000 people.
That's a lot of jobs.
Well,
but then, like you said, you have the undeniable evidence of extreme inequality. You literally see these incredibly affluent areas existing side by side, sometimes just streets away, from neighborhoods facing real economic hardship.
that's the core of the criticism.
Yeah.
London exhibits a very high degree of income and wealth inequality. And the exceptionally high cost of living, particularly housing, it raises serious concerns. Concerns about, social cleansing is a term sometimes used.
Right, pricing people out.
Yeah, where long-term residents, people on lower and middle incomes, are essentially forced out because prices just keep rising. That affordability ratio you hear about in 2024, average house prices were over 11 times typical local earnings. It just starkly illustrates the challenge.
11 times earnings. That's
Wow.
wow. And what about the impact of all the international billionaires buying up property? Is that seen as a positive thing, like an injection of capital, or is it just making the housing crisis worse for ordinary Londoners?
Well, it's a deeply debated issue, and honestly, there are valid arguments on both sides.
Okay.
On one hand, yes, these investments bring significant capital into the city. They can fuel development projects, create construction jobs.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's a very strong argument that it massively inflates property prices, making homeownership even more unattainable for many.
Mm-hmm. And it contributes to that phenomenon of high-value properties just sitting empty, the so-called ghost neighborhoods. Ghost neighborhoods. Yeah, I've heard that term. So what are the tangible, like, social and economic consequences of having so much wealth piled up in one city?
Well, on a national level, London's economic contribution is undeniable.
Bro.
We mentioned the 23% of UK GDP,
Yep.
its role in national tax redistribution, that's significant. And globally, its status as a leading financial center gives the UK considerable international influence, soft power.
Okay, influence on the world stage. But down at street level, it sounds like it creates this real palpable tension.
Precisely. While all that concentrated wealth supports a thriving luxury economy, high-end shops, restaurants, services, and generates jobs within those sectors,
Sure.
it also significantly intensifies the housing crisis. Average house prices remain stubbornly high, more than double the UK average. And homelessness. The number of people experiencing homelessness in London saw a really concerning jump, about 26% year-on-year in late 2024 for those actually rough sleeping.
26% increase. That's awful.
It is. And tragically, nearly 28% of Londoners live below the poverty line. The city actually has the highest rates of child poverty in the entire UK.
That is just up, up, up. It's a jarring reality check, isn't it, when you think about its global wealth ranking? 6th wealthiest city, but highest child poverty.
It's a stark contrast.
So, looking ahead then, what does the future hold for London's economic dominance? Are there sort of storm clouds gathering on the horizon?
Well, that recent dip in its millionaire population we talked about, combined with the ongoing adjustments after Brexit,
Right, Brexit's still a factor.
and increasing competition from other global financial hubs like New York, but also strong centers in Asia, they certainly present challenges. We did see some movement of finance-related jobs post-Brexit, though its complex estimates vary wildly, and overall city employment seems to have largely recovered to pre-Brexit levels, surprisingly.
Interesting. And the relentless march of technology, that must be a huge factor too, right?
Yeah.
Fintech and all that.
Absolutely critical. London's ability to adapt and remain a leader in the rapidly evolving fintech landscape, financial technology, that will be crucial. It needs to keep fostering innovation to stay competitive.
Makes sense. And in today's world, you just can't ignore the growing importance of environmental issues. How does that factor into London's future economic prospects? Climate change, sustainability?
Increasingly, yeah. Climate-related risks and the whole drive for sustainability are becoming really key considerations for the financial sector globally. London's financial institutions are facing growing pressure to transition towards green finance, sustainable investment practices. The city actually has ambitions to become a global center for green finance.
So it sounds like London's position at the top isn't guaranteed, is it? It's not set in stone. It needs to be really proactive and adapt to these big global shifts to maintain its standing.
That sums it up well.
Okay, before we wrap this up, hit us with some of those truly mind-blowing, almost unbelievable facts, the ones that really highlight the unique, maybe weird nature of London's wealth.
Okay, well, consider this again. The combined economic output of just two boroughs, Camden and the City of London, actually surpasses the entire GDP of numerous independent countries.
That's insane.
It's an incredible concentration of economic power in a tiny area. And then, yeah, you have the stark reality of that immense wealth existing literally cheek by jowl with areas of significant deprivation. The contrast is just right there.
Almost surreal. What else really illustrates this wealth divide? Something tangible.
Well, the property market throws up some truly eye-watering examples. Parking spaces. Literally just a space to park a car. In ultra-prime locations like Knightsbridge have been known to sell for upwards of £250,000.
£250,000 for a parking spot.
Yep, exceeding the average price of an entire house in many other parts of the UK. And then there's the trend of subterranean mansions, digging down to build huge basements, sometimes multiple floors, complete with features like private cinemas, swimming pools, even indoor waterfalls,
Yeah.
all hidden beneath the ground. It just underscores the scale of wealth in certain pockets.
Subterranean waterfalls. You genuinely couldn't make that up. Anything else that highlights the, I don't know, slightly unusual nature of London's economic structures?
Well, the City of London itself, the square mile, it operates with this surprising degree of autonomy. It maintains its own separate police force, its own governance structures. It's a fascinating historical quirk that reflects its long, unique evolution
Right, its own little world almost.
in some ways. And that Big Bang deregulation we discussed earlier, it essentially transformed London into a 24-hour global trading hub almost overnight,
Yeah.
a truly transformative event in modern financial history.
Wow. So when you piece it all together, London's wealth is this incredibly complex story, isn't it? It's built on centuries of global trade, fueled by financial innovation, incredibly concentrated in its modern form. But it's also a story deeply marked by significant disparities, by inequality, and now maybe some growing pressures too.
Precisely. Despite its undeniable economic might and its global standing, that recent decline in the millionaire population, however slight, and the persistent deep-seated challenges of inequality, they do raise fundamental questions about the future.
Yeah.
What will it truly mean for London to be considered one of the world's richest cities in the years to come? And perhaps more importantly, for whom will that wealth ultimately benefit? What are the broader implications, really, when a city operates as this global epicenter of immense wealth while simultaneously grappling with significant poverty within its own communities?
Those are powerful questions. Really makes you think about what richest city actually means beyond the headline numbers. Thanks for taking that deep dive into the complex world of London's wealth with us.
My pleasure. It's an endlessly fascinating topic.